Hey guys, so we recently found a book in W.H. Smith's called The Traitors. It's an interactive game book based on the BBC programme. So it says, it's time to start your adventure, get them before they get you. Put your sleuthing skills to the test in a world of deception, betrayal and strategy. Placed in a castle in the Scottish Highlands, you must figure out if your fellow players are faithful or a traitor. Can you trust Gabriel, the therapist who has surprisingly little sympathy for his fellow contestants, or Nina, the retiree who acts like the group's matriarch but has a knowing glint in her eyes? Beware, for in this treacherous game, trust is a luxury you cannot afford. In the official book of the BAFTA-winning phenomena The Traitors, the decisions you make will decide what happens next. Take this thrilling journey on your own or with others, pooling your wisdom to make the right choices. With over 20 standalone games to play as a pair or in a group, or with cunning traitors twists, this is the perfect gift guaranteed to unleash hours of mischief and fun. So I'm going to hand it over to the narrator.
Hello there.
I went to catch hold of the cat and she would have decided to bugger off.
What do you think? Should I explain the rules of the games to them so they can literally just pause the video so they can play it by themselves?
Go through it.
Okay. Okay. Starting off with the foreword. What does it feel like to be a traitor? I can remember the moment I felt the hand on my shoulder that meant I would be spending my time in the castle as a traitor. There was shock and nervousness, but also, I have to admit, a fair bit of excitement. The reason the show caught the imagination of the public, and it has become such essential viewing, is that it is a show about something we're all utterly fascinated by. Other people. The premise is simple. 22 strangers meet at a remote castle in the Scottish Highlands to work together on a series of daily tasks, both physical and mental, to earn up to £120,000, which will go to the winner, or winners. The catch is that from the protagonists, 3 are chosen to be traitors, who meet each evening to select one of the remaining faithfuls to murder. The faithfuls can fight back at a round table meeting each evening, where they debate everyone's behaviour and then vote to banish someone they suspect to be a traitor. But that doesn't capture the psychological drama that unfolds. With every murder and every round table vote, our game changed shape, as there were fewer and fewer of us, and the dynamics of the relationships changed. We spend our time making assumptions about others. We all think we can read people and know when someone is lying. But can we? I had to be above suspicion, forging bonds and building a family around me, as I told lies to new friends. There was pressure and guilt over the backstabbing, betrayal and double-crossing you have to employ to survive. But there was elation at eliminating a rival who had come too close to unveiling your secret. All the time, my fellow contestants, who were faithful, had to try and guess everyone's motives to sniff out guilt, double, and even triple bluffs. And now, you too will have the opportunity to test your abilities in this book. Do you have what it takes to enter the castle? Will you follow the path of a faithful, or shroud yourself in the cloak of a traitor? Will you get them before they get you? Let the games begin.
Come on, go cuddle. Go with it. Then go over a bit. Oh, hello.
Worst sniffer dog ever.
Should explain. The 4-year-old was hiding from Dad and he tried to use Shadow to sniff her out, and Shadow lied and said that she was on my lap, and she wasn't on my lap. It was a cushion. You have a doggy. You do daddy off the scent, didn't you? Yeah.
Just to let you know, there will be decisions made in this. Please leave a decision in the comment section should you feel like what my missus here is about to say right doesn't quite apply to you, and please give us your reasons why. Welcome, faithful. The game is afoot. Are you brave enough to turn the page and enter the world of the traitors?
A foot or a hand?
Do you have what it takes to make the right choices and reach the end of this deadly game? Will you be faithful or a traitor? This book will present you with a series of decisions as you move through the 12 days it takes to make it to the finale. 12 days. Beware, the wrong decision could see you banished or murdered. You can take this journey on your own or with others, pooling your wisdom to make the right choices. Every day you'll be called upon to perform a mission. You can choose to either play along with others or skip to the end and continue your journey in the castle. For our sake, any games or missions, they usually require about 3 or 4 players or more. So we'll just be
skipping those.
Yeah, just going straight to the story.
Technically we got a 3rd player, but you. Don't nibble me.
The book also has regular breakout bonus games separate to the missions, which can be played with varying number of players, all with a traitor's twist. So there'll be something for everyone in this book, whether you are reading alone or looking for games to play with others. Each day will end with a round table as you try to work out who to banish, and every morning will begin with breakfast as you wait to see whose absence means they have been murdered. On the next pages are the fellow contestants who will join you for this journey. Familiarize yourself with them. When you are ready, turn to section 1 to start the game. And so we come to the dramatis persona. Alexis from Edinburgh, a travel website editor. Amarit, Armagh on-street fundraiser. Anna, Whitley Bay, actuary. David, Henley upon Thames, publican. Deb, Port Talbot, court clerk. Elif, North London, unemployed. Gabriel, Anglesey, is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Personal therapist. Greg, from Salford, writer. Erwin, Carlisle, pilot. Isla, Isle of Man, aromatherapy shop owner. George, with a J. Folkestone, dentist. Laura, Laurie, or Laura, just Laure. Laurie, from Zurich, personal trainer. Luke, from Swanage, quantity surveyor. Nina, from Cork, retired florist. Precious, from Skye, a student. Rakea, from Dudley, in IT. River, from South London, museum guide. Ruby, from York, genome researcher. Steve-O, from Lowestoft, from a Coast Guard. Teddy, from South London, a crypto podcaster. Tim, from Cornwall, a park keeper. And of course, there's you.
Hey, stay at home, mummy.
And an animal lover of stupid animals.
Sort of. Avon rep. Oh, an Avon rep.
Here we go, starting off.
Okay.
Day 1. Thinking caps on, people.
Wait, it's quite easy to think.
That's okay. The sun beats down as you stand on the manicured lawn. Behind you rise the imposing towers of the castle. You and 21 strangers, summoned to play a deadly game of truth and lies. Already those who happen to be sitting next to each other on the train that brought you here have settled into groups. You overhear fragments of the source of muttered conversation strangers have as they get to know each other. Nina is clearly into flowers as she points at a particularly verdant bush and says something in Latin. You find yourself standing between Luke and Deb and are somehow drawn into a conversation about whether white or brown bread is best for toast.
Brown.
White.
Brown.
White.
Brown.
White.
It's healthier and you can't see when you burned it.
White. Good carbs. Not wanting to be controversial, you say you like both, but always save the white slice for at last, as a treat. Then regret it when no one laughs and you catch Elif looking at you a little too intently. But there's no time to dwell on it, as everyone suddenly becomes silent and faces in the same direction. Your host addresses you from the steps of the castle. Welcome to you all. I trust you enjoyed your trip. The game is afoot. In fact, it has been since you arrived at the railway station.
Question. Why does he sound like the Fat Controller from Thomas the Tank Engine? He's supposed to be Scottish.
Is he Scottish?
Yes, a Scottish castle bib.
Okay, well I can't do a Scottish accent.
Okay.
So yeah, you got the Fat Controller.
Okay.
You must learn that every decision here matters. Look behind you. You all turn as one and see a large rectangle on the ground with a colour spectrum moving from green at one end to red at the other. This colour spectrum is to measure your confidence.
Oh, okay.
Green represents a belief you will be good at this game, and red that you will be terrible, with every range of confidence in between. Go now and stand on the colour that represents your level of confidence. How good do you think you'll be?
Black.
What do? Do you stand on green, even though you're actually feeling quite nervous? Everyone loves confidence. Do you stand somewhere in the middle? Best not to stand out, isn't it? Or do you stand on red? Even though you think you might actually be quite good at this, self-deprecation is charming.
Middle.
So you're not quite sure. Okay. Okay.
Learn about your enemies first. Then you can strategize.
Again, leave comments in the section on the decisions that you have made. You find your way to the middle of the pack, where you briefly exchange glances with the others who are in the middle. I feel as if we have no idea of how good we're going to be at this, so it wouldn't feel right to stand at either end. And then regret it when you receive fierce looks from anyone either side of you. Now please stop moving. The host peers over at you. We asked you to make a decision and told you that every decision has consequences. Well, here you are. This is a game where pride always comes before a fall. She gestures to Precious and Ruby. So I'm afraid both of you are going home. There was an audible gasp. Some people are smiling, clearly thinking it's a joke. But then Precious and Ruby are getting hugs. You notice with mild annoyance that Rakea is crying. Then feel utterly heartless. You all turn your back on them and head into the castle. As you bound up the wide stairs and into the castle, it's cool and smells of furniture polish. Your eyes slowly get used to the dimness, and you see statues and corridors stretching off in various directions. You are told you can explore the house, and immediately people begin to form pairs and small groups. It feels a little bit like the first day of school all over again. Whatever happens, you're going to need allies, so you need to make a choice. In one direction, a few people are heading towards an airy drawing room. It might be worth getting to know them, you think. Some of them look like they know what makes people tick. On the other hand, it's a beautiful sunny day. You could head back outside and introduce yourself to the little gang that's collected on the steps. Some of them leaning against pillars. So what do? Do you head out to the drawing room, or would you rather head outside to the steps?
I'm gonna go up to the steps. Ouch. Oi, buddy, keep your hair to yourself.
Alrighty.
Yep.
As you go back outside into the sunlight, the brightness making your eyes blink, the first person you meet is Deb. She tells you that she's got a good sense for body language, which makes you feel a bit self-conscious. So you make an excuse and talk to Amrit. He's a very nattily dressed on-street fundraiser. He and Isla have immediately bonded over their shared love of aromatherapy oils. You're not sure how they discovered this. Perhaps by the smell? Also in the group is Erwin. The main thing you notice about Erwin is that he stands with his legs very far apart. Someone whose name you miss says perhaps that because he's a pilot, which makes little sense to you. Don't pilots have to sit in confined spaces? Steve-O is a Coast Guard, but you notice that he stands much less, like he's on alert. You tell yourself to stop overthinking everything. Then there's Rakea. She's in IT. Before you can say anything, she adds, I know it sounds really boring, but, well, I mean, you probably find it boring, but I honestly don't. This elicits an affectionate chuckle from Tim, a park keeper who seems to be immediately playing the twinkly-eyed grandfather figure of the wider group, even though he's not actually that old. Having got to know this group as much as you think you can, you wander inside and over to the hall. In the hall, people are milling about. Apparently people are being called in one by one to meet with the host. Sitting in a large wooden chair in the hall is Anna, who after smelling hello. How do you smell hello? Hey, Shadow, how do you smell hello?
Like this.
Who after smiling hello tells you she is an actuary, then leaves a pause for you to respond. Is that like an accountant you offer? The answer is yes and no, apparently. It's about understanding risk. Everyone always thinks it's about numbers, but it's actually about people, so you can see why I think I'll be good in here. You don't exactly see and ask her name again. Ask her name again. Sorry, you say. So many new names. Just then, George with a J walks by. Now he's a dentist, she says. I could tell you some stories around the risk connected to dentistry. I'm glad he's got a nice smile, though. Never trust a dentist with bad teeth. You are joined by Luke, who walks over arm in arm with Nina. I seem to have picked up this fancy man in the drawing room, she twinkles. I'm terrible with names, says Luke in response. Proper rubbish, actually. Which is weird because I'm a quantity surveyor. You nod and smile, but have absolutely no idea how those things are connected. While you wait to be called in, a few people open a pack of cards and you decide to join in. Just as you finish the game, you hear your name being called and it's time for you to meet your host. Finally, it's your turn and you are called inside. You are sitting before your host as they fire questions at you. I need to know if you have what it takes to be a traitor. You are generally conflicted. No one likes to think of themselves as untrustworthy, but at least as a traitor you wouldn't be murdered. Wouldn't you rather be banished than murdered? Would you have what it takes to lie to everyone around you, to always be looking over your shoulder, to betray their trust? Already everyone you have spoken to has said that they could never be a traitor, but they would say that, wouldn't they? And every decision has consequences. Is it possible to give the wrong answer? What do you do? Tell your host you could be a traitor, or tell your host you could only ever be faithful?
Could be a traitor.
Could be a traitor.
Keep them on their toes.
Okay.
Like the hot spoon.
You leave the room and go to join the others, who are waiting to enter the round table, a dark wood-panelled room with a large circular table in its centre. It can only be your imagination, but you think that people are looking at you differently as you all file in and sit down. Elif clutches her notebook tightly as she stares across the table in your direction. What will she write about you? Quite obviously, traitor material. Stop it, you tell yourself. You're getting carried away. But could it be true that your capacity to be a traitor is showing on your face already?
Probably.
You suddenly become very aware of your hands. You sit down, folding them on the table, then on your lap. You worry that everyone else in the room can hear your heart beating.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear it?
As you sit around the table, glancing nervously at each other, you catch Nina's eye and give her a quick smile. To your left, Teddy and Luke are having a conversation about which high-performance podcast they listen to, which involves lots of men who have dogs' names. Then your host steps forward. Now it is time to choose the traitors. Please put on the blindfold in front of you. You feel the material cool against your eyelids, the sound of 20 people trying not to breathe too loudly. If your destiny is to be a traitor, If your destiny is to be a traitor, I will tap you on the shoulder. You hear footsteps and creaking floorboards, the sound of someone pausing regularly. Then they are behind you. You wait for the feel of a hand touching your shoulder, your heart beating fast. Worried that if it does, you'll make a noise and reveal yourself. But it never comes. You sit there in darkness for what feels like hours, but must have been 15 minutes trying to sense any clue. Take your blindfolds off and look around. The traitors are now among you.
Excuse me. Buddy, you're spiking my leg.
Now that you know the traitors are among you, you're told there's time to relax. The irony of this is lost on no one. You're not sure how to relax or what to do, if you're honest with yourself. So you're quite relieved to hear that you're all going to be told what the rest of the evening holds. Then your host appears looking down on you all from the staircase. Well, well, welcome, traitors. You may be working against the faithfuls, but you will also have to work together every day to complete missions. And now it's time for your first one. Good luck. People are smiling nervously as you all gather together, not sure what to expect.
Oh.
Yeah. The mission is called Guest of Honor. We will immediately move on with the story. It's quite the jump. What was that? No. Everyone returns from the mission energized and excited, but it's sobering. But it's sobering to suddenly remember you're not actually all one team. You find yourself in a small group including River and Deb as they hold forth on how strange it is there are now traitors among you. Luke is talking loudly about how he could never be a traitor. In fact, he says, the only thing I know for sure is that I'm a faithful.
He protests a bit too much.
Whereas Nina is expressing sympathy for them. After all, it's going to be so hard to lie to people. Teddy says that everyone has to start thinking like a traitor to catch them. Kay keeps repeating, I just can't get over the fact that someone's going to get murdered tonight. You're sitting in contented silence, nodding along, when suddenly Tim turns to you. What do you think?
Don't ask me!
What do? Do you speak up and give your theories about the game? After all, you need to prove your value for the alliances to come. Or do you offer a platitude? There's no point planting your flag in the sand till you know the lie of the land a little more. What are you going to do?
Keep your mouth shut and keep your head down. Yeah, stick out like a sore thumb. Hi, I'm right here.
Okay, so you offer a platitude. So let's have a look.
Good way to paint a target on your back, you know.
Oh gosh, you say, I don't know. All I know is that this is really going to test us all, isn't it? Not the greatest insight, but hopefully not one that anyone can disagree with it too strenuously. And perhaps it's good to not raise your head above the parapet. After all, there are traitors among you who are looking for threats to themselves. You nod along for a little while as others advance their grand theories, before the gong sounds and it's time to head up for bed.
Mong. Mong. How many do you want me to do?
1 o'clock in all's well.
If you wake those toddlers up, you're putting them back to bed. I've already been in headlock today, I don't need it again.
You return to your room and get ready for bed. You are tired but satisfied with your day. You met a lot of people and feel confident you've done nothing to paint a target on your back. At one point you hear footsteps in the hall. And the creak of a floorboard. What the heck was that? And sit up in bed, your heart pounding. But then they move on. What the heck? You sleep fitfully and wake to a thin pale sun streaming through the curtains. You've made it through the first night.
Yay! Ouch, my back pinched. Oh, there. Watch your foot, buddy. That's it.
Day 2. When you enter the breakfast room, there are already several people at the table. You are starving, but wonder if it looks wrong to pile your plate up with food. After all, one of your fellow faithfuls will not be joining you that morning. However, you note that this doesn't seem to have stopped Gloria, who is explaining that as a personal trainer she has to be constantly eating protein. In her case, this means 10 sausages.
Whoa.
Anna is holding forth on the different risk profiles of scrambled and poached eggs.
You, neither.
Amred and Isla are leant forwards, laughing intensely at something. Nina is asking Tina how strong he likes his tea, and he says, "So strong you can stand a teaspoon up in it, my dear."
You.
Teddy is explaining to George
Cup of tea that drinks you.
that normally by this time he's been up for hours to catch the Asian crypto markets, and George is smiling a large smile with his very beautiful teeth. But clearly has no idea what Teddy is talking about. So many new names and faces to pay attention to. "So, how are you feeling about it all then?" says Anna, turning and looking at you intently. What do? Play up your emotions? After all, nobody likes a cold fish. Or do you keep your cards close to your chest? People can sense when something is being fake.
Keep your mouth shut and keep your head down. If you see a sniper come at you, you're not going to go, "Hi, I'm right here."
I really wasn't expecting it to all be this hard. The thought of murders and banishments, of traitors walking amongst us. You glance down the table, your voice catching. It's just a lot, isn't it? Tim nods his head and Anna, who is next to him, pats your hand. You notice a couple of people looking at you and nodding in sympathy, but you wonder if you see Steve-O roll their eyes. Who is missing? As you begin to tick off who isn't there yet, you realise that there are 2 people missing. Luke and Elif. There was a knock on the door, and then an expectant hush. Elif comes into the room, smiling nervously.
Oh.
She is mobbed by curious people and says, "I don't know, I just don't know. All I know is that I'm a faithful."
What's she so panicked about?
"Oh no, Luke," says Nina sadly. and you realise that some people have already begun to form strong attachments. You're going to need to up your game. At that moment, your host enters.
Squeeze me?
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all slept well. Unfortunately, there was no rest for the wicked.
You know.
As you will no doubt have worked out last night, Luke was murdered by the traitors.
Did you murder Luke? Did you? No.
Some people decide to take their hot drinks with them and play a game in the library, and you tag along. After all, it's a great way to learn people's names.
Please stop tickling my back.
After the game, you spill out into the hallway. People already begin to separate into groups and whispering their theories to each other. People are clearly watching each other intently for their reaction to everything, and you are slightly spooked and worried that you somehow got the reaction to the first murder wrong. It wouldn't do to get a reputation this early on. After all, at this stage, this is basically a popularity contest. It's time to try and meet some new people. From what you can see, there are at least 3 groups to choose from. What do you do? Head outside of the garden with a group headed up by Steve-O? Head into the library with a group headed by Erwin? Or head to the drawing room with a group headed up by Rakea?
Erwin.
Erwin? In the library, it is dark and cool. For a moment, you wonder who has read the books that line the shelves.
Please get your butt on me, you're old.
It's not your butt. It's not her butt.
It was her butt.
You slip into an armchair as a conversation has already started. Forgive me for piloting, so to speak, says Erwin. Old habits, but what do we all think is going on? I think he was a safe choice, says Greg. Stands to reason, if you're a murderer, pick someone who's one of the leaders for the first murder. Ooh, that's devious, says Gabriel. I could never think like that. You wonder for a moment if anyone is really as nice as he appears to be. Teddy is clearly chafing at the bit. It's classic game theory, isn't it, man? You pick someone with no clear reason and then watch as everyone tries to solve it. Then you shake loose who the real threats are. It's like crypto. Turn to 101. You leave the library and head out of the garden, where you see Isla looking out over the grounds. She turns as you approach. Everyone's gone all Agatha Christie in there, haven't they? She says. You smile. You have a feeling that she is a lot smarter than she's let on so far.
Excuse me.
And it would be good to be weary around her. Steve-O and David are apparently convinced that Luke was murdered because he was a bit dim, she says.
Nice.
Why would the traitors do that? Surely they want to keep dim people in? That's what Alexis says. That's what Alexis said, says Isla. It got a bit awkward, to be honest. David wouldn't stop comparing being a pub landlord to Steve-O being a coast guard. Feels like different stakes to me. Have you seen Emmett, by the way? You shake your head and say your goodbyes.
Ew.
As you walk down the corridor, you hear voices and put your head around the doorway into one of the other rooms. Laurie and River are sitting there with their heads close together in conversation. You go to turn away, but Laurie beckons you over. No, come on, come in, sit. You bristle a little. Does Laurie think you need a permission to sit down? No, of course that's not what she meant. But you're starting to feel like... But you're starting to feel you and her wouldn't click in real life. We were just talking about how sweet Tim is, Laurie says. It seems as if there's a few men who have been very loud about their theories, and his position is that at his age he's basically a mushroom. He's definitely sweet, says River.
Mushroom.
Mushroom.
For God's sake, a fungi. For God's sake.
But I think he's very sharp. But I think he's very sharp too. And do you see how Leaf writes everything down in a little book? You tell them about what you'd heard about Steve-O and Dave in the garden. You are all gathered together in front of the castle, and your host is smiling broadly. So it's time to stop wondering who isn't on your side and all take the same side. It's time for today's mission. You arrive back as everyone is gathering out in front of the castle. Your host steps forward. Well, faithfuls and traitors, it's time for you to again put your differences aside and work together in today's mission. Again, no missions in this video, unfortunately. Not enough people. Back to the story. After the mission, everyone is energized, and any divide earlier in the day feels long forgotten. You go into the corridor, smiling at how competitive everyone has become. You pass Elif, Alexis, and David, who seem to be having a conversation about their pets. With dogs, says David, you get the feeling that they would turn into a burning building to save you. With cats, it's more that they might start the fire because they're interested to see what might happen.
That one, right there.
Amrit and Ida pass in the other direction, giggling about something. It turns out George and Rakea like some of the same music, though George can't believe it when Rakea says she's really into classics. Classics? He roars. My God, that makes me feel old. You are happy to just watch and listen to the conversations around you, but all too soon you are told it's time for round table. You take your seats. Then there is a long pause. Everyone's eyes each other. It seems for a moment as if Erwin is looking at you. Steve-O seems to have his game face on. So here we are, says your host. Your first round table. Will you banish a traitor, or will a faithful suffer at your hands? Whatever happens, you must discuss and then vote together. From everything you've heard, there are some big theories flying about. Who knows what will happen next? As usual, Tim is smiling amiably. You idly wonder what would happen if you accused someone. He is one of the few people you haven't heard anything even slightly negative about. You catch his eye and give him an expression that you hope reads, "This is crazy."
Ah! Been attacked by the cat. Let go of my shirt.
A moment, then he gives you an expression that you're pretty sure means something like, "I know, right? So you think you're okay." Tim breaks the ice. Well, I'll go first. The thing is, he says, we haven't actually got a lot to go on, or much that's concrete at any rate. I wonder whether... Yes, Tim, interrupts Laurie, you're 100% right. We've got to go with our emotions. I'm lucky because I trust my heart more than my head, you know. Greg asks, right, so what does your heart say? That's just it. I don't know. She laughs at how this sounds. Except that I don't think a traitor would ask me that, you know. It certainly would be a bold move on Greg's part, you're thinking to yourself when Teddy pipes up. Except we do have a lot to go on, right? It's about understanding game theory and basic psychology. Steve-O looks skeptical. Seriously, you're not saying you can tell by looking at someone whether they're a traitor or not? Because that is just what I'm saying, insists Teddy. His tone is super serious. It's so serious, in fact, that it makes River giggle, but she quickly suppresses it. Unfortunately, that makes you want to laugh too, but you maintain your poise. Would you let me, though? asks Teddy. Nina says, what, look at us? I mean, sure, you're looking at us. No, says Teddy. I mean, really look at you. One at a time.
Teddy sounds a bit on the creepy side.
You think you hear another suppressed giggle, possibly from Amrit. I'm gonna do it. Ready? It seems terribly quiet all of a sudden. So Teddy starts. He fixes his gaze on River, who is immediately to his left. She eyes him back completely blankly. Most people do. You make a mental note of who doesn't. It's going to take a bit of time to get to you. Rakea can't really keep eye contact. Tim has what seems to you an uncharacteristic frown, not so twinkly now. Nina looks back at Teddy briefly, almost in challenge, then down in her lap. And before you know it, Teddy's about to stare you straight in the face. Just as he does, your urge to laugh returns. You're worried that if he comes out, it might look disrespectful. You're also worried that if you try to suppress it, you look like you've got something to hide. So what do?
Just laugh at him. Sorry. That's a bit rude, but whatever.
That's okay. It's one of the choices. Quickly let out a little snort and look back at Teddy calmly, or purse your lips and try to suppress your laughter.
Laugh at him. If somebody stared at me like, I can see your soul, I'll just poke him in the eye. Now you can't see nothing.
You're relieved that you weren't as loud as you thought you were going to be, as you disguise your laugh as a cough, then return what feels like a friendly, innocent gaze back at Teddy. He does have quite a penetrating stare, you notice, and he carries on until he seems to have assessed everyone. Interesting, is all he says at first. There are two people who I think can look me in the eye. Tim and Steve-O. I reckon at least one of them is very likely a traitor. Steve was the first to pipe up. What? This is mad. I mean, we could all have said we could read people and done what Teddy did. And then we'd have different names to be talking about. He's quite agitated, especially in comparison to Tim, who's just smiling benignly. We should forget what just happened and try to think about something we all agree on, not some random's gut. Ooh, calling Teddy some random sounded bad. Steve knows it and tries to backpedal. I mean, you're not some random, but come on, guys. Erwin, though, acts like the task now is to choose between Steve-O and Tim. What about you, Tim? Tim's still just smiling, a picture of calm. I suppose, he said at last. I did have something to hide when you were gazing at me, Teddy. See? Barks Teddy. I can always tell. But goodness me, it's not that I'm a traitor. I was thinking a couple of things. That this is a silly way to choose who we might banish. I do apologize, Teddy, but it is what I think. And I was also thinking, oh dear, I bet I'm going to do something to draw attention to myself, and I'm rather afraid I did. Okay, thanks, Tim, says Erwin. You know, it's a tough decision, this one. I do like you both, and... Hang on, says Steve-O. I mean, why are we rushing? You could just as well say a traitor would have a good reason for wanting the vote to be between me and Tim. Yeah? Like you're doing, Erwin. Hey, I'm happy to be in the mix if you want, says Erwin. You think you know what he's doing. He's figured that Steve-O was likely to go and thinks that if he's nominated now as well, he's probably safe for a bit. In fact, let's also vote on whether to choose from me, Steve-O, and Tim, or to carry on. Judging by the murmuring, this seems to be generally thought to be fair. Okay then, says Erwin. Shall we go to the vote? We'll talk about it a bit more. Raise your hand if you want to move on and vote. The easy thing to do would be to raise your hand and get on with things while the going is good. Why talk yourself into trouble? However, your suspicions about Steve-O's race being run are correct. Why not use the opportunity to build up a bit of personal credit and show you're a leader? So what do?
Keep quiet and don't do nothing.
So you vote to go straight to the vote?
Mm-hmm.
Right, 296. Here we go. You're by no means alone as you raise your hand to move to the vote. I suppose we have to choose someone, chuckles Tim. Again, you think he's probably feeling that if he makes it through this round table, he may not get nominated again for a little while. Your host announces, we will abide by your decision, and also, of course, by the more important decision you are about to make. It is time to carry out your first banishment. Please write down who you think should leave the game. Suddenly it all seems very real. In a few moments' time, someone will leave the room and the game for good. You ask yourself who's acting most like a traitor.
Tim.
And while of course all three players might be innocent, Steve-O was the one who seems most defensive. As those ahead of you read out the name they've written down, almost everyone has written Steve-O. When it's your time to justify it, you just say, I had to write someone, I'm sorry. Most people seem to have felt the same. River and Laurie actually vote for Tim. But other than
Did
that, it's time for Steve-O to leave. It's a big moment watching him stand. His upper lip is trembling. Steve-O, intones your host, you have been banished. Before you leave the castle, it's time to reveal whether you're a faithful or a traitor. I'd just like to say, offers Steve-O, I honestly thought I'd be here longer than this. I wasn't sure I'd win, but this, he peters out, you messed up, guys. I'm a faithful. Or was. Oh no, barks Rakea. This is on me, guys. I'm sorry I rushed things, offers Owen. Steve-O, you're right. So sorry, mate. You have banished a faithful. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it, says Elif. You sit in shock between Tim and Teddy in the bar as people mutter among themselves. I was so sure, says Teddy. Don't be too harsh on yourself, lad, says Tim, patting his hand. Anyone can make a mistake. As you sit, you realize how quickly people can turn a round table. The evening is a blur of names and faces as you try to learn more about the people you're meeting. You talk to Anna about your maths teachers when you were growing up, and sit with Greg and Deb as they discuss where they like to go out at home. At one point, Rakea makes George sing a song to Isla and Amrit, and everyone has to admit he's surprisingly good. The gong signals that it's time for bed. You mull over your choices, you brush your teeth. You think about what you could have done differently, but mostly you're glad you weren't one of the names getting voted for. Your sleep is uneasy. You keep thinking you can hear footsteps outside the bedroom door. In fact, you're certain of it. Quietly, you inch towards the door. Just as you're reaching for the handle, you're horrified to see it turn. Someone is coming in. You have been murdered.
Ow, neck.
Better luck next time.
Yeah.
So, what decisions would you have made in a scenario? And what do you think she did wrong?
Everything.
Please leave a comment below. Thank you for indulging us in this game of the traitors. If you want to experience this for yourselves, right? And the book is available. We got ours from W.H.
Smith's for £15.
Yeah, it's a good read, and the games inside are a lot of fun, especially for all those who like crime thrillers.
Yeah.
Or just usual interactive games. So yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Good night.
Good night.